entire world is being really smart.
Welcome to Smart is Sexy, the podcast where we discuss self-development, growth, business, spirituality, and becoming a smarter, sexier human. I am your host, Kelsi.
And I'm Celeste. Welcome to our show, y'all. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe right now, leave us a review, and send to a friend. Today, we have our second guest on that we've ever had, and we're so excited. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to Chris. He is a CEO, creative director, investor, and hospitality expert. And we're going to be talking about business, mental health, and a little bit of like founder psychology during a recession. But before we get into that, I'm actually going to have you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll start with Good News Minute.
Could not be more excited to be hanging out with you. You're some of my favorite people. I don't think you realize.
My little heart.
Let's lead with something really good. We can only go downhill from here. No, I'm able to sit back and since we got to know each other and just kind of watch you in this progression and with the podcast and everything that you're doing. And I mean, it's success after success. And it's very cool to kind of get to watch this and see you go through the process of it all. So excited to be here with you. Thank you.
I mean, thanks for coming.
I know. Yeah. And thank you for that bottle of wine.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I've already had wine.
To anyone who's listening, we were gifted a bottle of wine, which we quickly opened.
Yeah. So you'll see us drinking that on this episode. Well, thank you so much for being here. Okay. So before we get into you and like your background, we always start with a Good News Minute, which is a good thing that happened to us this week. Do you have a preference of who goes first? Do you want to start?
Oh, I can start.
Okay,
you show you the lay of the land.
Oh, yeah.
What you're getting yourself into.
I mean, I'm all into this your podcast, so I know exactly how this goes.
Okay,
but please,
great. Listen, we've had like our last guest who came on was like, "What? I don't know what I'm supposed to say," and I'm like, "You didn't even like kind of listen to one. Like, just you could start it for like a good 10 minutes, and you'd get, oh, okay, I get the gist of this." No, he didn't. So we're at least happy that you at least did a little research.
Absolutely.
So okay, my Good News Minute this week, which to so many people who actually have followers and views on social media and YouTube, this is going to be like, that's so sad that you're excited about that. But we hit 386 views on our last YouTube video.
So exciting.
And we got 34 subscribers. And
It's more than zero.
It's more than zero. And we hit like 62,000 views on one of our
latest TikTok.
Yeah. So I'm super excited and I feel like that is a big moment for us, especially like really breaking into the world of content. That felt like a big little milestone.
That's huge. It's about perspective, right? And celebrating wins.
Yes. So
Yes.
I'm celebrating that. It's our Good News Minute. I mean, when I saw that 34 subscribers and someone also left a comment.
Was it a good comment?
Yes, they were like, "Love this video." I was
love that.
"Oh," and she's random. I went and looked because I was like,
You're like, do we
Mom,
know you? Yeah.
Mom, did you get on and leave another cute comment? No, we don't know her. So I was really excited about that because she is a full stranger.
I love that for us.
Yeah.
Thank
So I
you.
felt good about that one.
I feel good about it too. All right, you're up.
Just got back from an amazing trip. So we travel nonstop for work, right? And so for business, it's constantly on the go, living on airplanes, and there's the pro and the con with that, right? So you get to see the world, stay at amazing places, but then you're also working nonstop. So last week, Maricela and I were on a project in Alaska. Not a spot that you often get to, right? I mean, have either of you been to Alaska?
No.
Right? So it's not like popping into Vegas for the weekend.
Right.
Yeah. So
Not a hop, skip, and a jump.
it is not, by the way, in case you're wondering, that flight's brutal.
Is it?
Yeah. So we were connecting through Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. It was like almost 6 hours. Like I could have gone to Europe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. From Minneapolis to Anchorage.
Oh.
And then from Anchorage down to Seattle was like 3 plus hours. But I mean, still, it's a little bit of a hike. So we got to go to Alaska. That in itself, that's just cool to check the box. Like if you're ever one of those, like I want to hit all 50 states or whatever. That's a big one, right?
Alaska's also just cool because I feel like it's so different. Like it's such a counterculture. At least in my head, I've never been there.
No, it is.
Okay, yeah. So it just sounds cool.
No, you're 100% right. But we took an opportunity we got a helicopter and they flew us out to a glacier, landed on it, and we got to hang out on a glacier and like take pictures. And like if you look on my Instagram, there like I was borrowing water from the, I don't want to say steal, it seems horrible. Like people knocking on my door later. No, but I actually filled up my water bottle from like actual fresh glacial water. Like it was the coolest experience of something. I go, you know what? There's a handful of times in your life that you would ever get this kind of an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So how long were you guys there?
On the glacier in Alaska.
In Alaska?
5 days.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so quick trip.
Cool. Yeah.
But then we took full advantage of this one afternoon, and just the pictures, and like Mary got these pictures that look fake. Like, you know what I mean? Like where you see like, oh my God, that's not real. Like that's how it was. Like it was pretty crazy.
Right. Oh, guys, that's so exciting.
Okay,
I
so
want to go to Alaska.
Yeah, that will be added
Just
to my
wait.
added
Let me
my
just to
list.
clarify. Like that was it. Like there was nothing else to do.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah, like on a
So
Monday.
5 days was a sufficient amount of time for you.
Yeah, now I mean, look, in the wintertime, you could do the whole dog sledding thing and like tons of
That
adventure
actually does
stuff.
seem really
Sound
cool.
fun, right? This is
Wow.
considered summertime to where it's like daylight the majority of the 24
Mm-hmm.
hours, which is super weird. And then we went to go to dinner one night, and there was one restaurant open. Like every other restaurant was like a Monday night. Everything closed.
Oh, wow.
When I
it's
tell you one
that
restaurant,
small.
like, yeah.
I always wonder what life must be like for the people who live in places like that. I
Yeah.
always think about that. I'm like,
It's not LA.
Yeah, no,
I just want to point
it's
out it
definitely
is
not.
not.
You get really good at like games.
Yeah, I
pick
just
up a lot
your board gaming is on point.
even when I went to when I was in Oregon, we went up to Cascade Locks, and the population's like literally smaller than my high school, and everything closes super early. There's like one street with like one church and one grocery store and whatever, and I'm always like, so what do you guys do?
Yeah.
Like it's so beautiful. It was like the most beautiful place I've ever seen, but I was like, what do you guys do around here?
Yeah, and it's kind of tough too because I mean I know for me, I think you are as well. You're splitting your time now and becoming way more into just like
Yeah.
I love this.
Accepting
I
the
need a
life
city.
that things close, things
Yeah.
close down.
Yeah,
early.
I need city.
Same.
So it's super cool when we're there, but there comes a point where I'm like, cool. So let's go back to where I can like go to Sugarfish whenever I want to.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I need the city. I need the skyline. I need things. I need people. I need all of that.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
it is challenging. On I think it was Saturday night, I was looking for things. I was like, wait, so the pharmacy's closed? Like you guys don't have even
Right.
a late night pharmacy? Nope, no late night pharmacy. I was like, huh. Okay.
Yeah.
There's some things that I do really love because I love to be outside. Like when I'm in Utah, I love being there. I love being outside. There's lots of things to explore. But then there does come a certain point where I'm like, okay, we just got to have a little bit more. Not that I even necessarily want to be out in it. I just want there to be the option.
Yeah. I know what you
Yeah.
mean. I just like knowing that there's things going on. It's like
Exactly.
comforting to me. Like I love that there's like a freeway right there. I don't know.
Just in case.
That's like such a city girl thing to say, but that's how I feel. Okay, well that's really cool. I was about to skip over my own. Okay, mine is that we shot for Playboy. And that was super exciting for us because that was something that Kelsi and I always wanted to do, was be able to be multidimensional founders. So like when we were coming up in the industry, we really hid any part of like being sexy because we wanted to be taken seriously. So we would be at nightclubs in like turtlenecks and glasses and, just really played by the rules that kind of already existed. But we always knew we were going to grow our career and then break those boundaries. Like we were going to be the ones to say, no, we can do both. And we used to talk about it all the time. I was like, I want to be in Forbes and Playboy. Like I didn't want to choose. So that was really cool that we did that. So that's out now. And we just posted it on our Instagrams. I think it's on the Smartest Sexy Instagram too, if anyone wants to go see it.
Yes,
Congrats.
and I did still wear a turtleneck in the
Yes.
photo shoot.
She did.
So even though I used to wear a turtleneck to the club, I still wore it in the
She did. And it made the headline too.
It did. It really. I was excited about that one. I was like, yes,
That
I feel
one was
good
really
about that.
exciting.
Good for you.
All right, y'all. Let's get into it, shall we?
Yes. So we met through our publicists, different, not the same one, but the different ones, and just to meet up and have dinner. They just felt like we would connect and it would be a good.
That was it.
And that was it. And then I remember sitting and having dinner together and being, I think I leaned over the table and was like, I don't like very many people, but I think you were really cool. And I genuinely meant that, because after, hearing your story and, where you have come, how far you've come in your career, I was just like, wow, okay. Like, there's not very many people who will just, like, no matter how bad things get, you just dig in and you grind and you go harder the next time around.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, same. And I actually am going to make you retell some of that story right
Because
now.
it was
so that the audience can
'cause
understand.
It was a good story. So we definitely want to hear, like, just kind of who you are in a nutshell, like how far you've come.
So our firm, Ellis Adams Group, is the name of our company, and we're listed as a hospitality firm. Lifestyle luxury is really our forte. It hasn't always been that way. So I didn't grow up in the hospitality industry, right? So I wasn't one of those individuals that grew up in working in a restaurant and then, worked myself through college as a bartender. I hadn't done any of those things. I stumbled into the industry. It was literally supposed to be a summer part-time gig, just to kind of keep me out of trouble. And that summer part-time gig was for a Ritz-Carlton that was opening. And it was a monumental moment for my life, and I'm able to look back on that now. When you're in the moment, what's the old saying? It's hard to see the trees past the forest, or whatever it is, right?
Only hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah. So like when you're in it, you don't really like, it's just another day, right? And I'm able to look back now and see these pivotal moments in my life of like, wow, that is when things started to change here, and this is when that changed. And when I got this part-time pool attendant job, which, by the way, if you've ever been a pool attendant at a luxury hotel, like, best gig ever.
Is it?
Oh my God. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. My job was to make people happy around the pool. And at the time we had a partnership with Evian water, and they had spray bottles that had Evian water. And I was like, this is some rich ass people right here. Man. Like, you're not even drinking it.
You're just spraying it.
We are misting your face.
Like, and like, I would walk around and like mist someone with like it was hot, and they'd like hand me a $20 bill. I was like, oh my God, like, this is my career.
Best
like,
job ever.
I literally was like, I've found my passion in life. But that's not the moment I figured out. But when I got into hospitality, the general manager of that hotel, I'll never forget, I was sitting in this ballroom, and it was part of a countdown to this opening, right? So in the countdown, you start going through culture training and technical training, all this stuff. And it was day 2 of this countdown and culture training. The general manager got up and spoke. And when I tell you, if anyone that's ever like been in church or grown up in church, those moments where you're sitting there and you feel like they're speaking directly to you. I'm like in a ballroom with like 1,000 people. I'm like, oh my God, he's talking to me.
You're all, Jesus, is that you?
Is that you? Like, there was like
There's a light
halo
around him.
I was like, oh my God. And everything he said just resonated. And it was something that I went, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. And from that moment on, I worked my tail off to understand the industry, to dive into it, and work my way up the ladder, and went from a part-time pool attendant, never in hospitality, worked my way up the ladder with Ritz-Carlton, became an exec for them, walked away to do my own thing because I was young and dumb and arrogant. And I was like, oh my God, like, I know this, I've got it. And I launched my first restaurants and nightclubs, and they crushed, which was not a good thing, because all it did is feed my ego of like, I know what I'm doing.
How old were you at this time?
Early 20s.
Okay.
Very early 20s.
So that's a lot. Like you said, it just feeds your ego. That's a lot of success for a very young person to have so early on. And
Well, it was skewed success. It was fake success. Right. So it was feeding an ego, making me believe I was having success. But the success, I was gauging my success based on money. Right? Money was coming in, and people were telling me this is great. So as a result, my ego goes, wow, you're phenomenal.
Right.
When the reality is, I had no clue what I was doing. I have right place, right time, right moment. Anybody that did what I did in that moment would have found the exact same success. There was nothing that I specifically was doing that was creating that.
And this was in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next thing you know, fast forward just a little bit of time, and the world comes crashing in. And the reality, I mean, when I tell you, I was finding success to the point where I had family members that were wanting to get in on this action, right? So I had cousins that were like, dude, here's a bunch of money. Go make me money too. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And next thing you know, everything falls apart and we lose everything. And not just I lose everything, I lose my family's money. Like, it was the most humbling, embarrassing, eye-opening experience at that point of my life. And it was a reality check, right? And it made me realize I didn't know what I was doing. I was going through the motions. I knew the right things to say at the right times, but did I really understand what I was doing, right? And that was a combination of hospitality and understanding how to run a business.
Right.
And from that led the process of me digging in from that moment on to understand this, what I call now the psychology behind hospitality. For me, it was that moment of digging in and saying, I need to understand what leadership really is. Leadership isn't about a title. Leadership isn't about just saying like, yeah, I'm the guy that's on the LLC or the S Corp. That means nothing. Do you actually,
Literally,
do
yeah.
you know what you're doing? Do you know how to run your operation? And it was a process. And I can tell you the learning curve for me from that point on was accepting failure, realizing that failing does not make you a failure. It is a part of the process. I believe that no one can ever talk to you about true success if they've never failed.
Agreed.
Right? You have to have both sides of the pendulum for me to really understand how to pull yourself up and rebuild.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We, a few years ago, well, not even a few years ago, many years ago, when we first started Viper, we were at this conference for women, and one of the speakers was up on stage talking about how, someone in the crowd had asked a question about, what are some of the failures you've experienced in business and what are some of the hardest obstacles you've had to overcome. And she, dead ass, just said, I haven't had any.
In 10 years?
In 10 years, I've had no obstacles to overcome. And Celeste and I are standing next to each other. We're like,
Yeah.
are we doing something wrong
that's
then?
scary. Those are the individuals you don't want to know what's in their closet.
No.
Yeah, it's so true.
No.
That is such a good point. Yeah, I never believe that. And I'm like, and also it doesn't help anybody to just, hide it because everyone's going to have to deal with it at some point. So that was like such a weird thing for her to say.
It was a weird, but yeah, like you said, like it is the failures that really do push you further, and the things that people can, whether you own a business or not, the failures are things that people can relate to, and they feel like then, oh wait, I've also felt that way, and I can also overcome something and be bigger than my past.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's when you start, everyone, we mentioned this earlier, everybody wants what you have. They're not willing to do what you do to get it.
That is the truest statement of all time.
Right. So, and I always say there's a great book. It's called Grit. And the whole purpose and the logic and theory behind the book simply says, do you have enough grit inside you to keep going, to keep pushing? Because if it was easy, everyone would do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, why wouldn't you? Everybody. But the reality is, are you willing to push past the pain? Push past the disappointment, the setbacks, because we all have anyone that's going to launch something, you have it in your mind of exactly how it's going to go, right? You go form that LLC and you literally have, okay, I'm not going to do this, and then people are going to be lining up, and then I'm going to get 1 million followers, and then like you've got it mapped out, right?
Yeah.
And this is when I'm going to go buy my Lambo,
Right.
and then reality sets in, and it doesn't go the way you've planned it. Which is that moment when most people throw their hands up and go, well, this isn't working. It's not for me. Let me go find something else so I can go figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's not what it is.
I don't know. I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, being a founder is not for the weak. Like, it is so challenging and so difficult. And I think today, just with the way social media is, like, everyone likes to pretend that they, are owning a business or running a business or something. And I look at like my day-to-day life and like the choices that I make every single day, and like what I do every single morning, and like the stress that I have to sit with because I have a team under me, and then I'm like subjected to the state of the world or the economy or what our administration is doing today. There's so many different moving parts that go into it, and it's so true. Will you put that time in? Like, will you spend time learning about how to actually run a business and how to take care of the people that work for you? Like, are you thinking about your team first? There's so much more that goes into it.
It is. And I think you hit the nail on the head, is that most people start this out by themselves. So they only have to worry about them.
Yeah.
It's a very selfish position to be in, because you don't have to think about anyone else, because it's about you figuring out a way for you to survive. The minute you start to grow and you have individuals that are now working for you or on your team, it's no longer about you.
Yeah.
It's always about them. And that is a very difficult transition for a lot of people to say it's no longer about me. It's my role. It's my role as a leader to wake. I know I've said this a million times, and I will go to my grave saying it. Is my job as a leader of my organization to maximize my team beyond what they thought they were capable of. It is my job to clear the path for them. It is my job to put them in positions that they never thought they'd be able to be in. It is my job to give them the life they never thought they can have. That's my job.
Yeah.
It is not about me, because if they win, we win.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally.
No, we did a episode not too long ago about like being a boss versus a leader, and that was a big thing that we discussed.
Yeah. I think too, a lot of people think that, they want that position, but then when it comes down to, oh, I actually have to like understand psychology of other humans, like, oh, I actually have to make decisions that benefit other people or put myself first, put somebody else before myself. And, you have to make decisions like you might have to go the extra mile. You might have to work more, or you might have to strategize more. And there's things that you have to do as a leader to set your team up for success.
Yeah.
And then I think like I run into people who complain about those moments, and I'm like, careful what you wish for, and we see that today with so many of these big companies where they kind of run them into the ground. And then people come out saying like the work conditions were horrible, or, we see this repeatedly.
Yes.
And then I'm like, so what's really going on?
No, so it's funny. I actually just watched the New York Times Elon Musk, they do like that docuseries on Hulu. And I just watched the one on Elon Musk, and it was interesting because the people that are no longer with Tesla came onto this to this documentary, and the interviews and the things that they were saying about the company, like you said, like things come out later about these companies, and it's pretty crazy. Like, I'm not saying anything about him. The man's a genius, but at times it's interesting to see and hear things, and you're like, oh, he's a genius, but then the people underneath him are like, but the way he's running is crazy. So to be a good leader versus being a boss, and that's on a very different scale. But it was just really interesting to hear what his past employees had said about him and how things worked within the company. It's
interesting too, because there's different types of leaders, right? You have the Schultze Howard from Starbucks, that his premise of how to lead people was, I'm going to create something that is bigger than you. So you weren't making coffee, you weren't supplying lattes, you were doing something bigger than yourself, right? And then you move over to Steve Jobs during his time as a leader, where he was so almost Elon Musk-ish, where he was such a genius that he would lead by fear, but you were okay with it because you just wanted to be in his presence because he was such a genius, right? And both got results, but very different ways of leading their teams. The crazy part is we've shifted so much as a society and culture. And when you look at industries like hospitality, there's a huge struggle right now with labor, right? Like, the elephant in the room. Nobody has labor. I don't care if you're a fine
Nobody
dining.
wants to work these days.
Right? I don't care if you're a fine dining restaurant or you're a dive bar or anything in between. Everybody's struggling with having teams to actually execute, right?
Yeah.
But the crazy part is revenue's up, sales are up. Now, granted, cost of goods are up, but our teams, our labor's down. So what that translates to is guests having an inferior experience, but being charged more for it. Okay, so that's never a good ratio or combination. And if you start looking at the data that says, why are we in this position? Like, why don't people want to work? And let's keep it specifically about hospitality. And like, I wrote a thing in Forbes recently about this, of talking about, the way we've structured the hospitality industry, the way we pay our people. It's a thankless job. You work nights, weekends, holidays. We come into a pandemic. You finally get the first time that you get to go to spend Christmas with your family in 12 years. Like, what the hell am I doing in my life, right? So there's a million reasons of why are we in this position. But I think what's interesting right now is it's not money driven. It's the fact that we're finally at a place where our teams realize that they want to work for an organization that legitimately cares about them, that gives them a purpose in their life. And their purpose isn't to show up and check boxes on you accomplish your tasks today. What are you actually doing that's bigger than you? All right, what are you doing? Like, forget the title of your position or what the checklist is of what your role. What are you actually doing to make an impact on the planet? And I think and this comes back to culture, and it is very easy to create culture. Most people, I'm going to go on a limb and say, when you were going to start your company, you guys had written down on paper somewhere the ethos of your company, your mission statement. This is who we are as a brand, right? And everyone wants to come up with that, and they got their pillars of this is what we believe.
Yeah.
That's great. That is phenomenal. You need to create it. The problem is there's a difference from creating it and cultivating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Are you actually, do your teams, can they look at your mission statement, your pillars, and go, we live that every day? Like my leaders absolutely live this to its fullest every day? Or is it something really cool that's put on paper? And then we have to get into the real life of our jobs.
Right.
And that kind of, I know that, but we got to get shit done.
Yeah. And I actually do think it's twofold. And especially for us, because I know we have really strong core values and really strong company culture. And it's a big part of Viper that we pay women very well and we always have from day one. And Kels and I took, we didn't take a salary for the first X amount of years in order to pay the girls on our team extremely competitively in order to build that culture and really put our money where our mouth is. We really did that for years. And now, our leadership, they really do lead that. And a lot of our girls, I think that all the Viper girls are very happy with where they're at. But I will say that on the flip side, something I'm noticing now, and when we hear reports back from our hiring manager, is that it is also extremely difficult to find people, at least in our situation, that want to work right now. And I don't know if it's because we just pumped so much money into the world during this COVID pandemic or, what's going on. But that's also been so challenging for us. And it's we do our best to push culture. And it was funny, Kel said it the other day because so we do a lot. We do a lot of different things, from money to outings to, the lifestyle.
Oh my God, I see your picnic stuff.
Yeah,
we do a lot.
We try to get the girls together to really create this family, so you feel like you're a part of something bigger than just being I'll just show up at this job and I'll work an event and then I go home. We really want to create something for women. I think we've always discussed it's really challenging to move somewhere new and to make friends. So we're okay, great. Well, you have built-in friends to a job. No, doesn't matter how well you're paid.
It's still so difficult, to find people who will show up and put the work in. And then that, leads me to the next question I was going to ask you. It's everything that you said about where you have come to now, so much of that was your work ethic, right? And for us, I see a decline in work ethic as the next generation comes up. That's just from my perspective of what I've seen. So I wanted to ask you that about with your hiring, with your team, with yourself, with what the trends that you're seeing. Are you guys dealing with that too?
Yeah, I think it's changing your perspective on what work ethic is, right? So we have always viewed work ethic as I'm willing to get up before everyone else and then work longer than everyone else to get a job done. I think we now have a generation that says, but there's other ways to do things to make us more efficient, to make us more powerful in how we do it. That might not be exactly the way you did it in the past, which means it changed our work flow. And so do I think that work ethic has changed? Yeah, but I think it's changed from what we've established it to be in our minds. I think we have a generation that are brilliant individuals. I think they think differently. I think the way they process information is differently. I think that, they can sit on TikTok for 3 hours and learn more in 3 hours than we probably did in 4 years of college, right? Because they process information differently. So I think it's important for us as companies now to shift the way that we operate and maybe our labor models and maybe the way that our processes that we've had written. When I open a restaurant, this is the process of how we do X. Well, maybe we alter that process because there's a different way to do it now based on technology, based on different things that we have at our fingertips that might be more conducive to where they are, which now we're meeting them where they are to get the job done, to get the results we're looking for, versus saying, no, 1 + 2 = 3. Well, it does, but 1 + 1 + 1 always it equals 3, and 3 + 0 = 3. And so I think for us, and I'm speaking to myself when I say this because I'm many times process driven, and this is how we do things. But I've also recognized that I'm a big advocate for change. I push hard on embrace change. Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Right? Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. So the same way I talk about all the time, I also have to live it. And I have to say, okay, this isn't working. So let's stop fighting something that's not working and figure out how can we make it work? How can we change the way we're doing things? How do we look at it differently? Change the process, change whatever it has to be, but there's an answer to it. We just have to change the way we view it.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure. I think because with where Viper is at and because we are a service-based company that requires a physical human to show up, getting the physical beings to be present is what has been such a challenge for us with our hiring process.
And it's interesting too, like as a business owner, and just when I watch trends, because I totally agree with you. I think that they have figured out a different way of operating. I also think that, they're very content driven. But I also wonder on the flip side of that, I'm like, is that helpful? Like if everyone is just a content creator, then like, so we're just pushing content, less goods and services. Like, I look at like these overall trends and like, it's hard for us. It's a little bit more challenging for us to hire at the moment. And I also wonder about like, okay, well, what happened to the longevity? What happened to those moments of like, finding grit? Like, are we breeding like a generation that's going to have that if it's all dialed into 15-second clips?
And is that sustainable? Because like grit to me, there's longevity in there. Like that is in you. That is
because now you can
ingrained.
do anything that comes your way. You have it.
Yes, because I believe that when you have that grit, if Viper were to fail tomorrow, Celeste and I could rebuild and do something else, and we would rebuild it and be like, okay, here we go, let's do it again. But that comes from grit. That doesn't come from I spent so much time on TikTok and social media.
But that's also why you're the founders and the CEOs.
Okay, good.
True. Good point. No, it's very true.
Right? And that's the thing
right.
is to constantly remind myself my position is because I had grit and got me where I am, right?
Right.
That's not for everyone. And that doesn't make any one person better than the other or less than the other. You've got to figure out your path.
Facts.
Right? And not everyone's the general. Some people are soldiers. And if you don't have soldiers, the general means nothing.
That is so true.
Is
you
true.
definitely
Right?
need both.
And I think in making sure that we don't, I think I told our team this today on a call. I'm not the model that you should model yourself. Like if you're not trying to launch your own company, don't model yourself after me.
Right.
Like don't
that's true.
If you get an email from me at 3 a.m, that doesn't mean, oh God, that's our standard. It's not. That's me. You've got to figure out your place, your role, how you're going to create value, create excellence, all those things, and how it breeds happiness for you.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why you're the founders and you've pushed through and gotten where you've gotten. You can't push your position on your team because they're not trying to be the CEO.
That's a great point.
One day they might want to be,
is.
and they might come to you for advice to help them launch something. But that's not where they're at right now.
Okay, wait. I want to go back to the grit conversation really fast. So, when you were in that time of that crash, like when you had lost everything and your family's money and things like that, what was your mentality in that moment? What was your mantra? Like, what kept you grounded, kept you going? How did you get through that?
I mean, look, let's be honest. I could sit here and, well, you know what? I was positive every day. And no, there was those moments where I didn't want to get out of bed. And I was like, this is like my world's falling apart. I had a daughter at the time. And I think that for me at that moment, I'll tell you a story, a very personal story. I'll never forget walking out. I had lost everything. Everything. I'm talking like, oh, we got a car. Nope, we'll take that too, right? Like lost everything. And the one car we had at the time, I remember walking out to it. My daughter was very, very small. And we needed to feed her. And we had nothing. Had no food in the fridge, nothing. And I remember walking out to the car and digging change anywhere I could find it between seats to get enough change put together to go to the corner 7-Eleven to get a little bitty pint or whatever of milk to make fake mac and cheese to feed her. And I remember sitting there, I was digging change out and telling myself, my children will never feel this. What I'm feeling right now, my kids will never feel this. Like the helplessness. And look, I come from a family they would have been there in 2 seconds if I'd have called. A lot of it was my own ego, embarrassment, why I didn't reach out for help in that moment. And I'm so glad I didn't, because that was that turning point moment for me of going, like, I don't know what I have to do, but I got to figure this out and I've got to fight. And it was that moment of sitting there going like, I never want them to feel this pain. I never want them to feel the heartache of not being able to take care of something you've created.
Right.
Which means that it's my job to go out and ensure they don't have to feel that. And I think that was a moment for me that helped me wake up and get me out of a funk to say, man, the hell with the funk. We got to figure it out. And I did not have some magic 8-ball. No one handed me a bunch of money and said, okay, just go figure it out. I went back to Ritz-Carlton. They called me back randomly. Didn't know what was going on. They didn't know I had lost everything. Offered me a job back with them to help develop some stuff on the food and beverage side. And I worked my tail off.
Yeah.
I worked my tail off and got my life back. And did that for a few years before I then broke away, launched. I didn't launch. I actually bought 50% of another company. At that point, that was a consulting firm. And when I bought 50% of that company, it was beverage focused only. And that was the only focus. They had Marriott International as one of their clients. And Marriott had just recently bought Ritz-Carlton, so it was a good fit. And my dad, who was a psychologist, he was a huge impact on my life. Big leadership guy and just one of the wisest individuals of just, he always had that right thing to say at that moment. Like, damn, that was good. Right. And he went, I was doing this for a few years and I asked him, I was like, Dad, I just feel like there's more. I had failed in food and beverage. I failed in restaurants. Like there's gotta be more to this. Can you help me figure it out? And he went and did research for me to help me. Is there a psychology behind why we do what we do? We look at behavioral patterns of guests, neurological mapping, all these kinds of things. Came back, presented me with all this information. I was like, holy crap, there is, I'm onto something. My partner at the time was like, dude, we do beverage. And I was like, cool. I was like, I'm out then. I said, let's split the company. Here's my 50% ownership back. You can, you don't need to pay me anything. It's yours. I had no clients. So I went from losing everything, getting my life back, to then having this moment was like, there's more. And basically walking away and saying, okay, cool. I've got no money. I've got a dream though. And I believe in this. Had no clients.
Yeah.
He kept Marriott as a client because he had them already. I filed for my LLC and within 2 weeks of filing for it, I get a phone call from a massive company. It's like, hey, can you help us rebrand and reconcept? I was like, yes, I can. It's funny you should call. My calendar is wide open. A week after that, I get a phone call from Marriott International. It says, hey, we know you guys split up. We're looking at changing kind of how we do things. Would you come talk to us? I called my old partner up. I wanted to give him a heads up. Like, hey, I just got this. He goes, I already know. Please go meet with them. If they're asking, like, take a shot. Fast forward 6 years. Now we are the lead consultants for 30 plus brands for the largest hospitality group in the world, design, development. It's literally just went from, I've got a cool idea. I believe in this. I had the substance behind it. I believed. I had no money really to do it with. I had no clients, and boom, it blew up.
Yeah. Now you said that with that story you share with us, which thank you, because I'm sure that's a very vulnerable thing to share with and just anybody, but you didn't reach out to anyone. But then you said your dad played a huge role in the whole, I think there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. When did you finally kind of reach out for that support system and that help where you're like, okay, now I'm ready to accept that?
When I got the job back at Ritz-Carlton.
Oh, okay.
And I felt like I was getting a paycheck again. I could at least pay a bill, one of the bills, a part of the bill. And it wasn't just me going looking for a handout. And it will, I'm sitting at home, in my own, depression. Will you help me? It was more of like, hey, I'm pulling myself up. I got this thing going. Can you help? And it wasn't a help financially. It was more a help of conversation. Yeah. More than anything else.
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, the hardest part of so many of the battles that we've had to fight is the mental health side. That side is really, lack of capital is really hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's really hard when you can't afford groceries. But the mental battle that I think that like we fight as founders or just like anyone like pursuing their dreams or pursuing something bigger than themselves is so difficult some days. And there's some days where I'm like, can't touch me, like you can't stop me. I got this. And then there's other days where I'm like I told you yesterday, I was getting ready for dinner, just tearing up about the economy. And I was like, I just went through a pandemic, and now we're in a recession. And I think like it's so much of it is like the mental perspective of finding like the belief in yourself.
Can I tell you though, if you can get the mental part under control, the mental part controls your feelings. Your feelings dictate your emotions. Your emotions control your behavior.
Yeah.
Right? We control most of our behavior is based on how we feel.
Yeah, my therapist says that to me all the time.
Like something good happens and I'm ready to take on the world because something good happened to me. I feel good. And my emotions are driving my behavior, right? And I've said this many times that it is a mission for me every single day because I know my team depends on where I'm at, where my mental state is, which determines where they're at. And if it determines where they're at, it means it's now trickling down to our clients and projects we're on. It is a mission every day for me that some days are great days, some days aren't, right? Some days you wake up and you're in a funk and you don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, make it a mission to wake up every day and whether you have a book next to your stand, have a podcast ready to go, something that gets you in the mindset to always be in the right state of mind because that will control your emotions. Your emotions will dictate your behavior. And I'm telling you, it's about perspective.
Oh, everything is perspective. We talk about that so much on this is like, things by themselves are neutral, right? Like whether it's raining outside or it's sunny outside, like it's just neutral. And we talk about how much like a meaning that we assign. I think our last episode was on this, how much meaning like we assign day to day. And that's that same perspective with even me yesterday in my bathroom crying about the recession. It's like, there's one perspective, which is inflation's up, interest rates are up, we're in a recession, shitty time for founders. And then there's another perspective that is millionaires are born in recessions. Millionaires are made in recessions. This is where like we move forward. This is where it's a great time to not have taken any investor money, which we never have. Like there's two perspectives on both sides. And I completely agree with that. Like it's that meaning that we assign.
Yeah. I can't stress for anybody that potentially is listening. If there's one thing that I don't care if you're planning on being a CEO, if you're planning on being a server, whatever, sell real estate. If you can get your mindset right and focus on that every single day, for me, it's because I never want to miss an opportunity. We live in La La Land, right? Yeah. And when I tell people that, I always have the mentality of when I walk out my front doors of my place, I have no idea who I might be running into. We live in a city that's real life for us. Like at Starbucks, you don't know who's going to potentially run into you. It says, dude, I think I just saw you on a podcast recently. You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually just happened to me at yoga.
Okay. So a perfect example is if you woke up that day and you were in a funk and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to throw today away because I'm not having it. And next thing you know, this once in a lifetime opportunity that could completely change the course of history for you, you missed it. You walked away from it because you made a choice that morning to throw your day away. And you're like, well, Chris, it's one day out of 365. It only takes one day and one moment to completely change the trajectory of where you're going.
Yes.
So for me, I wake up thinking today's that day. Today is potentially that day. I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, I love that.
Definitely.
That's a really good perspective, honestly.
Because there are some days where I might wake up and be like,
yeah,
I'm not
We all
leaving.
do.
I'm just going to sit at my computer.
Oh, you guys, I had ice. I told Sobin when I walked in, I said I had ice cream for breakfast in a robe on my couch because I was having a hard morning.
Maricela is so happy right now that you just said that.
That's like, that was my morning. I've been watching these trends and I'm just like, we just went through a fucking pandemic. And so like as founders that lead a team that just went through like the most amount of challenge. And I'm just like watching the market and I'm like, oh my God, like again. Like, I'm like, I don't need this right now. Like,
I will tell you, and this is crazy, but stay away from what the media is feeding you.
I know.
Like I can tell you,
they just anything on.
Well, the crazy part is there was a huge conference in Chicago this past week and for the National Restaurant Association. and you talk to everyone that was there, and like it was the biggest one we've ever had. The energy, like we're back. There's so much innovation. Yet, if you would have left that and turned on your radio or the TV, it's like, oh my God, the world's ending. I don't know why everyone's here looking at restaurant stuff because we're not going to be able to eat ever again. Like, I mean,
So true. We saw it with COVID too.
Exactly. So for me, I'm like, I'd rather, what is it? Ignorance is bliss. I'd rather live in this. Like, I'm just going. I'm going.
I do agree with that. I do think you have to have some level of like understanding of what's going on,
Of course.
but you do have to kind of be like, but collectively as a whole world, everyone's been there. We'll be there again, and we'll move out of it again.
I think it is that, because I agree with you guys. Like I like, you know, and I'm super spiritual. So I believe like what we believe becomes reality. But then on the flip side of it, I'm like, I'll call Kelsi and be like, we have to slash our burn and double our runway because I don't know what's going to happen.
Which is what we are currently doing.
Which is what we're currently doing.
And we are grinding. Hey, that grit,
You know?
that grit's coming into play right now.
and so it's that balance. It's like, okay, I know that, you know, maybe not layoffs, but maybe we're cutting back on hours. Like, how are we going to make that runway longer for us as founders? So to ensure the longevity of the company, the success of the company, the well-being of our team, like, you know, so I walk that same line of like, I don't want to be there, but then there's like a part of me that's like, I have to know a little bit so that at least I know
100%.
them, you know?
Please don't interpret what I'm saying as, don't listen to anything. Just go do whatever.
No, we know.
It's more of,
It's just a balance. It's a balance of like, I'm going to take this negative media in every single day, or okay, I learned what's going on. Now I know how to adjust, and this is what we're going to do differently moving forward. And it's not about having, you know, laying people off and anything like that, but we just go, okay, we got to regroup a little bit. What can we take on that we're able to pull back a little bit, so we're able to save a little bit of money here and there, and just things like that.
And adjust. Exactly what you said, adjust to change.
Yes.
That's it. How, for me, it's seeing everything on the TV is it's information, it's data. So I have to take data from everywhere I can possibly get it, because great data helps me make great decisions. Take that data, use it as information, interpret it the way I need to, so I can then make great decisions for my business.
Yeah.
Don't let the emotional side of what they're saying, because that's typically what happens. We're not looking at data. We're listening to what they're saying, which attacks the emotion of like fear and all these things. And then we make decisions based on that versus saying, let me take this as data. And based on the data I'm giving from multiple sources, not one, what's the best decision I can make based on this data to ensure that I'm being a good steward with my business?
Right. And it's hard too. I was just having this conversation with somebody else too. Even when it comes, I mean, we're like big, not that we're like anti-media, but I'm a little anti-media.
I'm like, are you telling me the truth?
Yeah,
I just don't know.
I'm a conspiracy theorist. So it's like, but you know, the other thing that's hard too is like when you do listen to other people's perspectives, it's like, again, it is perspective, right? Some people are going to tell you that this is the best time to invest, and other people are going to tell you don't, and, you know, save all your cash.
Which is crazy, because my mom's like finance guy was like, this is a good time for us to be buying into things.
Of course.
Right now. Like, because it really is the perspective. He's looking at
well, it's also his job.
Yeah.
So it's like his role.
Hey, this
Look,
a great
I think
time.
everyone's perspective, like if you've got a truckload of money, your perspective is going to be different from somebody that's bank accounts is negative.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make one right and one wrong.
No,
I mean,
and that's
not.
And that's the other thing too. Like I always try to take that in consideration. It's like, you know, this is speaking on whatever that person's reality is, right? Like your mom's financial advisor is a financial advisor who wants her to continue investing. Of course, that's his perspective. Now somebody else, marginalized community, different perspective. So I try to keep that in mind too. But I definitely think like when you're leading a team, there's an added level of just weight, at least for me, that I feel all the time. It never leaves me ever. Like I feel like I have kids sometimes because there's like a weight of like, I have a team.
Yeah, but leadership is that mantle.
Yeah.
Like that's the responsibility that you take on, that you carry when you make the decision to say, I'm going to be the CEO, I'm going to be the leader, I'm going to be the founder, right?
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you do care, the fact that you do, there's nothing worse than a leader that has, I feel no weight.
Yeah, that's
because
horrible.
I don't give a damn about my team, right? That's the worst. I mean, it's the worst kind of, they're not a leader at that point, right? They're checking boxes. So it means that you care. It means that you have empathy for your team. It means that you're thinking about them and the choices they're having to make right now too.
Yeah.
And that's a tough, it's probably one of my characteristics that I need to work on. And I try to work on is the fact that I care a lot. like to the point where to a fault, where I could be taken advantage of by someone because I care so much. Now there are certain business things that I am a pit bull and I will come at you, but when it comes to my team, like my heart wraps it around them. Like I want the best for them so badly.
Yeah.
And I want them to maximize themselves more than they ever thought they were capable of, to a point where I can have blurred vision sometimes in situations because I care so much. And again, balance.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think like we've had a lot of discussions about that dynamic too, and like that boundary. Like how do we do both? Yeah.
It does ebb and flow though sometimes. Like there are times where we're able to give a little bit more empathy and a little bit more like, okay, we're gonna really stand behind you and back you up. And then there's other times where you got to give a little bit of tough love. But it's an ebb and flow of like, there's two of us, luckily, so we get to take on different roles at different times of being like, okay, there are days where I'm the person who can give a little bit of tough love, or vice versa. Like it just kind of depends on.
Recently, apparently, it switched.
Can I tell you one of the best things that you could ever do? It's something that we preach constantly. Is in another book. I feel like we're sort of book club. Radical Candor. Radical Candor, phenomenal book, and the whole premise behind it says that I care so much about you that I'm willing to say something. See, most people don't like confrontation and tough conversations, right? So I always interpret this as I have two daughters, right? And I know that my teenage daughter, if she's doing something that I know is not going to be good for her future, am I going to say something? Well, of course, because I care deeply. I love her with everything inside me, right? And I do that knowing that I might face the wrath of the teenage daughter that's going to slam a door and tell me I'm an idiot. And I'm okay with that because I care so much about her future that I'm willing to take that on.
Yeah.
The minute that we're not willing to have tough conversations with our team, we're basically saying, I don't care enough about you to have those conversations. That can only take place when there's trust.
Yeah.
That can only take place when your team knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that you always have their best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And that has helped a lot in our organization and we lead when we know it's that, we'll lead the conversation with, all right, guys, radical candor. And they know, they're like, all right, because we've established what that means. And they know that I fight for them. Maricela fights for them. Jason fights for them. So when there's those moments when we have to have that tough love conversation, it's a much easier conversation because they know where we're coming from. We're speaking in truth and love. And we're doing it because I want the best for you, and I refuse to allow you to go down a path that is not going to maximize you.
Yeah.
That radical candor is a game changer for your company.
Our friend Marco has this saying. He said it, and I have like saved it in my head ever since. And he says, "I love you enough to call you to something higher." And that is like my favorite quote of all time because it's
really good.
so good. And that is so true. I feel like we definitely aim for that with our team too. Kels will always be like, so I want to begin like, what's it, like a compliment sandwich, like
I always start off with like this, like, you guys are doing a really great job and we appreciate everything we're doing, but we have some things that we need to change and some things we need to work on.
And then you're going to close it with,
but we really, you guys, there's so much room for growth.
There it is.
And and you put that bottom piece of bread on. But yeah, it is really hard sometimes to be a founder. It's just hard.
you have to be very comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, every day.
Right?
And something that's also hard too, that like you said, it's, every morning when you wake up to put yourself in that right frame of mind, something that's really challenging, at least for me, that there are times where I am like, I am just a person. Like I am just a human being that also feels the exact same way that everyone else is feeling. And I have shit days too. And sometimes I do just want to sit in my bed and eat ice cream for breakfast because And so it is hard. It's hard to prioritize your mental health, but then also to uplift others to prioritize theirs. Like that, it's challenging.
The mantle of leadership. To whom much is given, much is required.
It's true. What's the Spider-Man one? Is that the same one?
I think I just quoted something from the Bible, so I don't know if that's the same as Spider-Man.
Spider-Man power,
Jesus,
great responsibility. I don't know. I've only seen that for Spider-Man. No, I completely agree. Okay, well, thank you for all of your thoughts. I love hearing them. We love hearing them. And we're so happy that you were on the show today.
Yeah, every time we like leave with you, I always like write down, make mental notes of like the little nuggets that you've said. I'm like, okay, wait, I'm gonna just start doing that with my team. Okay, yeah, okay,
always.
great. Okay,
I'm gonna put out like a book out of like what was it, Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy from SNL, like just little one-liner.
I would love that. I would buy it.
I would buy it. It will, and I will gift it to many people.
Well, anyways, I was like, I just lost my train of thought on that one. No, but we do want to say thank you. So the way we end episodes is we do our sexy, but before that, I did feel like it would be we just could not skip over the Uvalde shooting in Texas that just happened.
Yeah.
That was so tragic and is so, I don't know, it is so like deeply, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I don't, we're not the show to have a partisan conversation, so I don't think it needs to be that. But I did think that it would just be remiss to not mention it. So
yeah, this is so lame in the grand scheme of things, but like sending thoughts and prayers, like it does nothing but it just to like really take a moment and like see what you can do, whether it's financially or reaching out or, signing something that you feel particularly passionate about to just kind of benefit those families. So definitely wanted to.
What do you guys think of this like conversation? Because everything in the media right now is about mental health, like relating to that. Do you guys like, is that?
I think that's where it starts. Like whatever your feeling is on guns, I do think the main issue at hand is the fact that we are not focusing on mental health at a very, very young age in this country.
Yeah. It breaks my heart to know that this is the state of mind that our children have. Mm-hmm. That we're at a point, and I don't know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to tell you why it's happening. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I just know that to look at a young person that is barely double digits, that woke up today and was going to go see their friends, and they were going to play on a playground, and they were going to learn stuff from a chalkboard, and to walk away with the impact of what they're going to live with for the rest of their lives. And the heartbreaking part on top of this is that some child was so distraught that they felt like this was the solution to their pain, to go do this horrible act. And forget, and this might be a very different approach of how to look at it. The individual that did this, they were a kid.
Yeah.
They were a kid. Where were they at mentally?
Yeah.
To do that.
That's the thing.
And that breaks my heart.
We keep seeing this like 18-year-old male like figure that's doing these mass shootings, and it's like, and I agree, because I'm like, there's an issue here with mental health, and we've seen that they come from broken homes and they have hate towards women, and like we've seen all the studies, and so I agree, like mental health is playing a role here. But I'm also like, why are we the only country dealing with this at this rate? Like I do feel like at some point there's a compromise somewhere. Maybe it's a mixture of a combo of mental health, a mixture of we don't need AR-15s, mixture of, I understand there's going to be arguments on any side. You can say gun reform, you can say background checks. Somebody's going to say it doesn't matter because you could get it anyway. Someone's going to say state law. They're going to say you could have driven past state lines. Like anything you say, there's going to be a rebuttal. So, and I don't have the answer. I really don't. But I'm just like, yes, mental health. But I'm like, there's like this like profile of this like 18, 19-year-old boy that comes from a broken home, that picks up an AR-15. It's just like, it's an epidemic at this point. I'm like, when does it stop?
I also don't have all the answers.
Neither do I.
I do think that there needs to be multiple safety nets.
Yeah.
It's not just a one thing will fix
No, and
all
that's
of
the
it.
thing. I
It's
don't
definitely-
think there's one
Yeah.
answer. I don't think it's just, X or just Y. And I don't know what the answer is. And quite frankly, neither does our president. Did you guys see the tweet? He tweeted, what can we do? And everyone was like, you are the president.
Literally,
you are in charge of this.
Oh.
And the one last thing to touch on this too is I go, because you hear people say, no other country, another country. Okay, so let's take a step back from that, because I go, every country has something.
Right.
Everybody's got something that they're like, well, they're dealing with this and we don't have to deal with that here.
Right.
So everybody's got their stuff. I look at it and say, what are we? something has to happen to create change, right? Change, you can't continue to run the same cycle and get this. I mean, we all know the definition of Einstein's insanity by Einstein, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So at what point, regardless of political views or whatever, that we go, hey, what are we going to do differently moving forward to create some form of change, whatever that might be? And it could be the mental health side of it. It could be, I don't know what the answer is, but to continue to stay on this mouse, what is it? The wheel?
Hamster wheel.
Hamster
and
wheel.
that's why I'm so over. Everyone makes it a partisan conversation, and I'm like, you know what? I really don't give a fuck about your political views. I actually don't care.
Yeah.
I just want this to stop happening.
Yeah, it was
Vote
actually
for whoever you want. I don't give a shit. I just want this to stop happening.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's that. But anyways, we don't have to get super into it, but I did want to.
But we will also be posting on the Smart is Sexy Instagram on like how you can donate, get involved with like financially or anything, you know, like that.
Perfect.
We'll be posting things like that you can be a part of. And also in the YouTube link, we'll attach a link there as well.
I gotta tell you, when you see somebody, tell them you love them.
Yeah.
Give them a hug. When you see a little kid walking around, pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Like, give them a high five when you're walking by. Give them a fist bump.
Yeah.
Like, and
that
believe me,
change.
I'm not saying get creepy.
Right.
It just hit me as I said that. Don't like pull up in your
Yeah.
van. But acknowledge people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
do
simply acknowledge
I
people.
do think, I mean, this is going to sound so cheesy, but I do think showing kindness to anyone at any age does change the trajectory of someone's day. It can. Maybe not always, but it can change someone's day when someone's a little bit nicer. You're having a hard day and someone's a little bit nicer. I'm always like, oh, okay, wow, thank you. I kind of needed that. Thanks.
We understand why Starbucks puts your name on the coffee cup, why Ritz-Carlton went through great lengths to make sure that we use your guest name 3 times in every service interaction, because there's something psychologically appealing and uplifting of you saying, hey, Kels, Celeste,
Right.
it's great to see you today.
Right.
Just that.
Yeah.
That alone, you're like, wow,
Absolutely.
that just felt
They
good.
remember my name.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. No, I totally agree. All right. Okay. Well, to wrap up, we'll move into our final portion, which is our sexy. So this is when we do whatever you find sexy. It could be about the opposite sex, could be about just something you're interested in, a current fixation, could
Emotional
be
intelligence.
current, could be
Yeah.
long term. I'm going to make Kels go first. We're going
Oh,
to see if she has something
Yeah,
other
you
than
guys, you all
arms.
need to go first on this one.
Okay, so the big joke is that every week mine is arms.
Every week. It's ridiculous at this point. I'm like, you have to
I went
pick
through a
something
phase
else.
where I was like triceps, forearms. We could, but this week I have something else.
Thank God. We are so happy.
Even though we just had like a really great deep conversation about leadership, I'm over here being like, I love.
Oh God.
My sexiest thing right now is like this very no makeup look that girls are doing for summertime. It's like I've been watching a lot of TikTok videos.
Yeah, makeup trends have changed.
Yeah, so they're just basically having a lot more of like a natural look. And I'm sure you deal with this often, with no makeup look.
Big issue.
Big issue. I'm sure I'll send you a couple videos.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. But that's a big one for me right now, where I'm just like very into seeing girls look a little bit more natural and like a little bit more like themselves.
So are you going to take on that position for summertime?
I currently went and spent a lot of money on no makeup things.
I did the same
Interpret
thing.
that however you
That's
like.
how that works. So that's mine. That's mine for this week.
Okay, I'm here for that. I also spend a lot of money on those trends.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Does that mean it's my turn?
It is.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, actually, it's from a conversation you and I were just having. Mine is like, when you're out at night, maybe there's like a good view, you have a glass of wine and you have like a really good like business meeting or dinner. And there's just this feeling of like, especially in LA or in a big city, where you're just like, I don't know. It's very like inspiring. I get like an adrenaline rush off it. I'm like, I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to build an empire. And it's that combination. It's like a good view, a glass of wine, late night dinner, city view. It's like that. It's that feeling. That's mine this week. I'm obsessed with that.
Okay. It's on me now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I don't get to do this podcast with you all the time, so I don't get to go through these trends of like arms
No.
for 6 weeks straight, right? So I've got to go big and deep, like, on my one shot here. I get very excited and passionate about when I see others that have grace.
Ooh, I like that.
The term grace to me I say it to myself often. It resonates very much with me when others find grace for something or someone else. When I see an individual look past an immediate circumstance to see the root, the heart of a situation, and finds grace for others. And this kind of goes back to our earlier conversation of like the mental health stuff and all. But when I'm around people that has that energy of I can find grace, like to me, that is just like, it melts me. Like I'm like, it breaks me down because I see their heart, that they truly want the best for you, and they see your heart and not whatever happened in that moment. Grace is a very big thing for me.
I love that.
I like that. That was a good one.
That's a
Much
really good.
better
I
than
know.
mine.
Like I'm like, wow, Grace.
Yeah, but you have to come up with something every week.
Yeah,
I've got my I
nonstop.
just boom. If you invite me back, I'm like eyes.
Yeah, and it's so funny because we'll go from saying something like last week I said tattoos, and then this week I'm like, so it's like we'll change it every week.
Yeah, sometimes it's like physical. Sometimes it's like about ourselves. Sometimes it
changes.
But you always have to come up, and then so many times I'm like, I don't really know anything this week.
The Grace one is good.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
here
a
for
great
that.
one.
Yeah,
Great one.
all right.
Thanks.
Anything else, Kels?
That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming
this
on
was
this.
really fun.
Thank you.
I can't wait for everyone to get to experience this because
I
this
am
was so.
beyond proud of the two of you to see what you're doing and how hard you're fighting. But in the midst of your fight, you're in the middle of it. But for everyone else watching what's happening and seeing the growth of your company and seeing the success you're finding and the constant accolades that you're getting, that's not by happen chance. It's because you've worked hard and you've made great choices and decisions and you fought through. So it's very cool to see it happen and to, in some small, minor little nugget, get to hang out with you along this journey. So congrats to your success.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. We
No,
always
it's really
love.
nice.
We always
every
love talking to you. I know.
Literally every time I leave dinner with you, I'm always like, we need to do that again. I feel really good. I feel like
good.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, thank you so much. All right, y'all. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find us on Instagram at smartastsexy and on TikTok at smartastsexy by KCH. Thanks, y'all. Bye.